So, we're back to another module of Pentest Plus. I do want to make some reminders. First and foremost is NCL team game is this weekend. So if you haven't formed a team yet, highly suggest that you do. And you can ask in Discord to make your team. That's why it's there. Item number 2. Oh, and definitely don't miss NCL because you paid for it. So it actually makes no sense that you paid $35 and not gotten the full, get your money's worth. So definitely play this weekend and make a team. Secondly, this is the time where students start, especially those who have been falling behind, they start submitting stuff in. I am aware of that. I used to do that too. So I am not punishing anybody as I have done from the very beginning. Nobody gets punished for submitting stuff late, but there is that due until date. That is a hard stop. So if you are behind in assignments, don't go too crazy. Do your best to catch up. Everything is submittable until that due until date. So don't freak out too much. Trying to give you as much leeway as possible so that you can get all your work submitted and get a good grade. Because honestly, the only way to fail my classes is to do nothing or submit nothing. But if you do the work, you get a passing grade. So it's not, it's not rocket science to pass my classes. It's definitely a lot of hands-on, and I understand that, and I know that it takes time. So that's why I've given that grace period for everybody. So, yeah, get your work in on time before the class is over, before that due until date. If you so happen to take and pass the Pen Test Plus exam, you do get an automatic A because you achieved the whole goal of the class. So if you pass it, if you take it and pass it, you don't have to turn in anything. You get a perfect A. How does a team game work? I see the question. No, you don't all have to do the same thing at the same time. So your whole team will get a bunch of NCL questions. Everybody divides and conquers or works together or however you see fit. You have that whole weekend to work on all the subjects that they throw at you. But no, if one person solves a question, the whole team doesn't have to solve a question. It was solved for the team. So if you answer the first set of OSINT questions, then nobody else has to answer those because you answered it for the team. How you make teams is completely up to you. If you want to make teams with people who are good at different sections, then you go for it. If you want to make a team because you know these people and you know that you work well with them, that's awesome too. I don't expect I don't expect a very certain, straightforward. I let it be organic. I let you create teams how you guys see fit, who you see yourself working better with. I'm not that kind of person who micromanages everything. If you haven't noticed, I like giving you the space to grow and learn. But good questions. Any others before we get started in the chapter? Okay. then let us begin. Module number 7. As always, there is a little test for you to take. So go ahead and knock that out. This module will focus more on maintaining persistence after you compromise the system. So this is after you've done your research, which you should have done at length, and you prepared your attack, and you were successful in launching your exploit quickly and efficiently because you spent that time doing your research. So now that your exploit was successful, well, we need to maintain persistence. And the first thing that we tend to do is create a shell. A shell could be using bash, KSH, ZCH, TCCH, or the command prompt or PowerShell. With a bind shell, an attacker opens a port or a listener on the compromised system and waits for a connection. This is done in order to connect to that victim from any system and execute commands to further manipulate the victim. Using Netcat, a tool you should be familiar with by now, you would see a command like this. Running Netcat on the listening port 1234 as an example, and executing the bash shell or the command prompt. In order for the attacker to connect to the listening port, they'd execute something like that. So with the vulnerability occurred and somehow transferred Netcat or not even used Netcat, used any other form of creating that listening port to get the shell and then connecting to it. A reverse shell is a vulnerability in which an attacking system has a listener port and the victim initiates a connection back to the attacking system. This shell will allow attackers to circumvent firewalls. So ideally, as an attacker, you want something more like this, where your exploit then will connect back to you. Because, in the mindset of a firewall, anything coming in to the firewall has to go through the rules. Anything going out, not necessarily, because it's supposed to be generated from the local network, and anything in the local network is supposed to be secure because it's the local network. So there aren't that many rules for outbound, definitely inbound, but not so much going out. So if you are able to create your exploit in a way that phones back to you, you will have a better connection. Now, this is, of course, if you can do it without getting caught by an IDS, an IPS, or other infrastructure in the way. So a reverse shell could be executed with a command something like this. In the attacking system, to listen to a specific port in the compromised host, the command at the bottom shell would connect to the attacking system. Again, just examples. But you have the understanding of it is better from an attacker standpoint to have your victim connect to you rather than the other way around. So that is a misunderstanding of the acronyms. An intrusion detection system is just the general term. If we are specifically talking about the network, it is a network intrusion detection system, or NIDS. If it's a host-based at the end device, then it would be a HIDS, host intrusion detection system. So it really depends on what we're referring to. I said IDS because talking in a general sense, an intrusion detection system that could be on the network, could be on the host, or could be both. In this case, about maintaining persistence by creating a shell back to an attacker, it could be either or. It could be detecting these on the network. It could also be detecting a odd port being opened on the host. It could be both. Does IDS include stuff like card reader? It could if those devices are sending their logs in. Is the scope of the acronym that large? Yes, IDS and IPS, or intrusion detection and intrusion prevention system, can be that broad. Because right now we're just talking about a network in general. We don't have a specific network to look at and to be able to say, the network or the host. It could be either or. Command and control, the C2C, C2, either way. Attackers use these to send command and instructions to compromised systems. Attackers often use virtual machines or cloud services like Twitter, Dropbox, PhotoBucket, Discord, Slack, IRC channels, among many others. The C2 communication can be as simple as maintaining a timed beacon or a heartbeat to launch additional attacks for data exfiltration. These can be trickier because a heartbeat could be sent as an HTTPS get and post. You wouldn't be able to see that because it's HTTPS. Those heartbeats may go undetected by network systems. Even more so if they're encrypted through standard means like HTTPS. So as an attacker, you can leverage things like Let's Encrypt to build systems, build these kinds of networks where you can have your victim send stuff to your command and control server, and they generally go undetected. Now, there are a number of tools that you can use to get started, to get your feet wet in what this looks like. And again, you want to do this in a networked environment. Like if you're doing it in the cloud, you want to keep it to internal cloud, not external. But you could do things like SOCAT, WSC2, WMI implant, Dropbox C2, Trevor C2, Twitter, DNS Cat 2. There are so many on GitHub. Just take a look and you'll find quite a number of command and control utilities to test. Not all of them may work. Some may require some odd dependencies or whatnot, but you will more than likely find at least one that will work to see in action. Now, talking about compromised hosts, scheduled tasks or cron jobs can be leveraged for their system level privileges, creating custom daemons to start at boot up to remain persistent to further compromise other systems or exfiltrate data. After a system is compromised and obtained root or administrator access, you can do all kinds of things like creating new users to interact with other victim systems. Attackers should create alternative accounts with complex passwords to hide under best practices. As an attacker, it is a good idea to know what the best practices are and use them. Because who is going to really question a general user with a common name and has complex passwords and meets all the needs of the Active Directory domain and just flies undetected? No one's gonna bat an eye. If you can hide in plain sight, that's pretty awesome. Lateral movement involves scanning a network for other systems, exploiting vulnerabilities in other systems, compromising credentials, and collecting sensitive information for exfiltration. Lateral movement is possible if an organization does not segment its network in a proper way. A basic port scan will identify systems or services of interest that you can further attack in an attempt to compromise valuable information. Attackers need to avoid raising alarms at this stage. You are in the internal network. You are able to move about the network to find another system to hit. The question is, how do you do this without getting caught? This is where your practice comes in play. This is where spending a lot of time in Try Hack Me and trying a lot of the boxes will help you out. Because there are boxes where you learn this kind of stuff, where you do attacks without getting seen. Also doing this on your cloud systems and running things like Wireshark and other tools that people use, like Suricata, like Snort, like Zeek. Running those and seeing what they pick up so that you are as quiet as possible. You want to remain undetected. You've made it into the network. You don't want to get caught. So how do you do a scan slow enough and quiet enough to not trigger any alarms? How do you see what's on the network without packets getting scrutinized and getting, essentially getting caught? Most systems have remote access protocols on and listening, especially internally, like Microsoft RDP, Apple Remote Desktop, VNC, X Server Forwarding. Metasploit already has the modules to exploit these active services and get a GUI from the target system. Now, just because Metasploit has it doesn't mean automatically use it, because there's a lot of tools who know the Metasploit signature. So you'd have to get a little more crafty than just using the module itself. Oh, I don't have the picture here, but in the notes, I have a little PowerShell line that you could use to avoid detection. And I'll put it in, oops. That's not what I wanted. That's what I wanted. I put it in the Discord chat, but you can see it in the notes. Something like this will download a PowerShell script from the internet. It will load it and run it instead of downloading it, instead of having it run on disk. It'll run in memory. Here's a number of other PowerShell commands that could be useful. I would like to remind you of one of the books that I asked you to get for this class, the Operator Handbook. It has a number of tools and tips for you to use. Definitely take a read at that book if you haven't already, to see what you can use at this point in the game. You have Powersploit, which is on GitHub, and the link is in the lecture notes. Powersploit's a collection of Microsoft PowerShell modules that can be used to aid pen testers during all phases of an assessment. Empire is another that does similar jobs to Powersploit, and if I am not mistaken, Empire actually got some updates recently on GitHub. Oh, the project no longer supported. I thought I saw something new about Empire on Twitter recently. WMI, the Windows Management Instrumentation, is used to manage data and operations on Windows. WMI scripts or apps to automate admin tasks on systems and data management. Malware that you can write or craft together can use these to perform different activities like data gathering or system enumeration. The big thing is here what I put in parentheses, living off the land. If you are able to run commands and programs that are legitimate for illegitimate reasons, you can definitely hide from IDS and IPSs. For example, the sysinternal suite, the suite of tools that allows admin to control Windows from a remote terminal to upload, execute, and interact with executables on hosts. That entire suite of tools is pretty powerful. And no Microsoft operating system will bat an eye at it because they're all legitimate. They're all digitally signed. They're all by Microsoft. And they have the capability to do damage in the wrong hands. Do not discount the tools that already exist that are approved. You can use those to your advantage to wreak havoc on a network. Once you are in, you need to understand how to cover your tracks and clean up systems after an engagement. So yes, during the compromise, you want to avoid detection by suppressing logs when possible, deleting user accounts that were used and any files that were created. Definitely want to document what you did during the work so that you're able to reverse during after a pen test. So like deleting any user accounts you created or any files, executables, scripts, temporary files, any system modifications, return to their original values, remove any and all backdoors, daemons, services, rootkits, customer data that you acquired during this process, and document all of that. So for the pen test, yes, it's all fun to get in and show that you made yourself root, and you were able to laterally move around, but definitely keep track of how you did that so that you can reverse it for the client when you are done with the engagement. Any questions? Okie dokie.